All right, let's jump right into this explainer. I want you to picture the 13th century. There's this massive storm rising out of the endless grasslands of Mongolia. But, it's not a storm of rain. We're talking fire, steel, and blood. Led by Genghis Khan, these armies moved with a speed that literally no human civilization had ever dealt with before. Now, in our actual history, that explosive expansion eventually slowed down. The great leaders died, the empire fractured into pieces, and the world just kind of moved on. But what if it didn't? What if they just kept going? Today, we are diving deep into a seriously mind-bending alternate timeline from the creators at Alternate Itihas, exploring exactly what would happen if the Mongol Empire never stopped expanding. Spoiler alert, humanity would never be the same. A storm not made of rain, but of fire, steel, and blood. To really understand this timeline, you have to grasp the sheer, terrifying speed of the Mongol blitzkrieg. At their absolute peak, entire kingdoms were vanishing literally overnight. The destruction was so thorough, so complete, that they burned ancient, massive cities to the ground, and history just forgot they even existed. It was like a reset button being smashed on the ancient world over and over again. So, here's where everything changes. Here is our point of divergence. In real history, the Mongol Empire weakened because it broke apart from the inside. The generals started fighting each other, the unity shattered, and that was kind of the end of the mega empire. But in this alternate timeline, a new Great Khan rises to power, and this guy is smarter, colder, and way more ruthless than Genghis Khan ever was. Instead of letting the factions divide, he unites every single one of them under this one eternal, absolutely terrifying vision: complete world conquest. Now, Europe had survived the initial Mongol invasions in our timeline, right? But honestly, just barely. So imagine what happens when the full, undivided, perfectly unified force of the entire empire comes back. It's a terrifying domino effect. Poland falls immediately, then Hungary, then the Holy Roman Empire, with all those castles that European kings thought were completely unconquerable, just crushed to dust under advanced Mongol siege engines. Royal bloodlines that have ruled for centuries are erased in a matter of weeks. And then the ultimate, unthinkable moment happens. The Mongols march into Italy. And for the second time in human history, Rome falls. Let that sink in for a second. They didn't just come to raid and take some treasure, they completely wiped out the fundamental European power structures forever. Fast forward to the 1400s, and the Mongol Empire stretches across pretty much the entire known Earth. I mean, we're talking all the way from the eastern coast of China, straight through Europe, and down from the Middle East to the very edges of Africa. But here's where it gets really fascinating. With the whole world unified under one single flag, global trade just explodes. New roads connect entirely different continents. For the very first time ever, human civilization is actually truly connected on a global scale. And because they aren't bogged down by the endless European wars that happened in our timeline, technology takes a completely different path. The Mongols, historically, valued speed and mobility above absolutely everything else. So when they start industrializing, they don't do it the way we did. Humanity enters this wild Mongol industrial age, perfectly fusing their ancient nomadic warrior culture with heavy, rapid industrial tech. Just imagine the scale of this. We're talking gigantic, steampunk-esque machines inspired by horses thundering across entire continents. Massive, hyper-advanced trade cities rising up straight out of the empty deserts because they are perfectly placed on these global supply routes. Transportation tech advances so fast because the absolute number one priority of the empire is moving troops and goods across vast landmasses instantly. But, endless conquest fundamentally changes a society. At first glance, you look at this and think, wow, this is the dream. Unprecedented global connection, incredible technological marvels, peace between nations. But hiding just beneath the surface is a very dark, inescapable nightmare. Because an endlessly expanding empire requires absolute order. And maintaining that kind of order, it gets really ugly, really fast. To keep the entire globe in check, the empire demands complete unity. And that means human freedom just disappears. Individual cultures faded away. Hundreds of languages and ancient traditions are entirely wiped out. It becomes a total dystopia. Citizens are constantly monitored. Children are systematically raised by the state purely for war. And if you even think about resisting, well, rebellion is punished with absolutely zero mercy. They systematically erase anything that makes you an individual. Now, jump ahead a few more centuries. The empire modernizes even further into the super gritty cyberpunk-style era. But the crazy thing is, they never drop that ancient warrior spirit. Those original Mongol banners are still waving over these neon megacities. It's a cybernetic future that is incredibly advanced technologically, but absolutely terrifyingly cold emotionally. You can see exactly how this sci-fi evolution plays out. Back in the ancient empire, you had human khans leading horse cavalry with bows and siege engines. But in this cybernetic future, the human leaders are completely replaced by AI-controlled khans running entire continents. The legendary horses are swapped out for relentless cybernetic armies guarding the cities. And the arrows, yeah, those are replaced by massive flying fortresses blacking out the sky. The human element has basically been programmed right out of existence. Which brings us to the really heavy question of this explainer. Humanity finally achieved that elusive dream of total global unity, but at what cost? When you look at this alternate reality, you really have to stop and weigh the horrific price tag attached to absolute perfect order. It is the ultimate paradox, right? On one hand, you have a world with literally 0 world wars, no divided nations constantly fighting over borders, no chaotic global politics. It sounds exactly like a perfect utopia. But the trade-off is a world completely stripped of freedom, totally devoid of individuality, and lacking any true humanity. It turns out, perfect peace is just a beautifully designed, massive, soulless cage. Maybe civilizations were never meant to rule forever. Honestly, going through this timeline makes you look at real-world history entirely differently. In our timeline, the Mongol Empire eventually fell apart. The cities faded, the rulers died off, and the great conquests just stopped. And seeing how terrifyingly efficient the alternative is, you gotta wonder if the messy, chaotic collapse of empires is actually the very thing that keeps human freedom alive. So while in another timeline, the mechanical harm of Mongol armies still echoes across the earth, thankfully, we live in this one. If you enjoyed our journey into this incredible speculative history today, huge shout out to the source material from the Alternate Itihas channel. Make sure you go check out their work and subscribe to them to explore more of these wild worlds that almost existed. And I'll just leave you with this final thought. One single decision in history, one butterfly effect, can literally change the fate of humanity forever. Thanks so much for exploring this alternate timeline with me. Keep asking those big questions, keep learning, and I will catch you in the next explainer.